So as many of us already know, The Legend of Zelda is celebrating its 35th year of existence in 2021. In that period of time, we've seen this series progress from what it was on the NES into the first 3D adventure on the Nintendo 64, then all the way up to Breath of the Wild now, where we see our very first full open world experience with Zelda and a sequel to that on the way. Now, being a fan of this series for a long time, there are certain points that just stick out in my mind. Certain things that when somebody says The Legend of Zelda, this is what pops into my head. So today we are gonna look back over the last 35 years of The Legend of Zelda, and today we are going to give you our favorite moments in the series. That's right, I said we. Today I am joined by Derek, but you guys probably know him as Zelda Theory. What is up, man? Happy to have you on the channel.
Chris, my guy, thank you so much. The honor is all mine. Appreciate you having me. Let's dive into the content today and deliver some value to this amazing community.
So like I said, we're counting down our favorite Zelda moments. We've got 5 over here, but if you want to see the rest of the list, the other 5, we have a whole nother video just like this over on Zelda Theory. So as soon as you're done with this video, make sure you click the link at the end of this video or down in the description and get the rest of the list. While you're over there, make sure you get subscribed to Zelda Theory. If you're a Zelda fan and you're not subscribed over there, I mean, what are you doing? All right, with all the formalities out of the way, let's go ahead and get this started. Okay, so the first one I want to start with here is one of my favorite moments in the series for probably a completely different reason than a lot of people. Now, I'm talking about the point in Ocarina of Time, once you finally get to go to the Temple of Time, open the door of time, and pull the Master Sword from the stone. Now, obviously, that's an iconic moment. It's a huge thing, very memorable moment in the Zelda series, obviously. But that's not really why it's so memorable to me. I was, I think, maybe 11 or 12 when that game came out, and you know, it was a different time back then. There was no YouTube. You know, you couldn't just go online and watch gameplay. You couldn't do those sort of things. So there were a lot of secrets in games that were pretty well kept, especially to an 11-year-old kid. If you weren't, you know, reading the magazines or, you know, watching the commercials if they came on TV, which I really wasn't watching either, you didn't really know what was happening. So the fact that Link turns into an adult in that point in the game, not only was it a huge deal to me, but it was a complete surprise. I had no idea that was gonna happen at all. The fact that time travel was in this game and what happens after that happened was a huge surprise to me. So that was a pretty big moment for me in the history of Zelda. But Derek, go ahead and give us one that is special to you.
Chris, my man, it was very hard to pick 5 specific cutscenes. I don't know if you struggled with it, but I definitely did. But I definitely want to point out one that stood out to me, and that was in Twilight Princess, after you beat the Lake Bed Temple and Zant just shows up out of nowhere and just like shuts down whatever was going on between the Light Spirit. You just beat the Lake Bed Temple and Zant comes out of nowhere and just like manhandles the spirit and Link and Midna. That is such an epic scene. I love it because it just shows how powerful Zant actually was. And other than this cutscene specifically, I don't really feel that Twilight Princess gave him the mojo that he needed throughout the entire game. I don't know, Chris. This scene just really stood out to me out of all the scenes in the game, specifically Twilight Princess.
Another one of my favorite moments in the Legend of Zelda series has to be when we find out that Ravio is actually low rule version of Link. If you've played A Link Between Worlds all the way through, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't and you're still here after the spoiler warning, low rule is like an alternate dimension. It's like the opposite of Hyrule. There's a version of Zelda there and there's a version of Link there. But you meet this character, he's got a big purple rabbit hood on, and honestly, I never even expected that could be, you know, the other version of Link. No idea. So that was a pretty big reveal to me, and honestly, now that I think about it, we probably should have seen it coming. I mean, as you progress through the game, he just kind of slowly takes over Link's house and just makes it his own shop. I mean, I guess it's kind of his house too, sort of. I don't know, I guess not really. But again, just like the Ocarina of Time thing, I didn't see that coming at all. It was a total surprise to me and a very good one, I thought.
All right, Chris. So another scene that really stood out to me in the Legend of Zelda series is specifically in Skyward Sword. When you actually beat the Lanayru mining facility the first time, you come across this scene where Link, Impa, and Zelda are just, you know, happily staring at each other, and then bam, out of nowhere, Ghirahim comes on the scene. Easily one of the best bosses in the Zelda series. The way he comes in and just utterly demolishes and destroys the happiness of this scene, it just really stood out to me. I love Ghirahim in Skyward Sword, and this cutscene specifically really stood out to me because it just shows the power of Ghirahim, and more importantly, how amazing Impa is. Like, it is ridiculous how strong Impa is. The other thing I like is just the flat out emotion that Link shows here, and I feel like Skyward Sword is one of my all-time favorite Zelda games just because of the emotion that Link has without even speaking. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know, Chris, I just feel like this scene is just so epic. It always comes back, and it's one of them scenes that I always love, and when I'm playing through the game, I just crank up the sound and just watch this over and over again. It is so good.
So my favorite Zelda moment, probably of all, has to be the final boss fight against Ganondorf in Twilight Princess. And I'm not talking about just the final fight. I'm talking about the entire thing. It's such a long fight. It's so well done. The dialogue through everything between, you know, the different battles, it's so good. There's just so much story going on there, and it's so intense. Just in that moment, everything that's going on, I think it's by far the best in the series. Not only for that story, but just because of what you're doing during it. You know, a lot of boss fights, you fight, you know, maybe Ganon 1 or 2 different forms, but in this, you fight him pretty much in 3 different forms in 3 different ways. Now, the first one, obviously, you're not really fighting him, you're fighting Puppet Zelda, but you do have that back and forth parrying of the energy globe, you know, stuff that's been in the Zelda series against Ganon for a long time, since A Link to the Past. But we also did that same sort of thing in Ocarina of Time. So you fight Puppet Zelda like that. Then you get to fight Dark Beast Ganon as Wolf Link, and I think that is probably one of the coolest fights. Not saying it's difficult, but it is very cool visually. I just love the way they did that part of it. And then you think, oh, well, maybe that's it. But no, you're not even close to done yet. Then you and Zelda get on horseback. You fight Ganondorf on horseback, and then you fight him one-on-one on the ground. So it's essentially 4 fights with cutscenes between all of them. It's just amazing. I think that is probably my favorite moment in Zelda ever. But guys, that is gonna do it for this half of the list. Remember, you need to go over to Zelda Theory's channel right now to get the rest of the list. But before you do that, make sure you leave me a comment below. Let me know what your favorite moment in the Legend of Zelda series is. And again, huge thank you to Derek from Zelda Theory for helping me out with this video. I had a great time doing this one and the one you're about to go watch over on his channel. So that's it. We're done here. You don't need to be here any longer. Go right there. Go right there. Later.